I want to talk about the importance of building modular clay tables for CRM enrichment. Really, I think in general, but I want to talk about modular clay tables for HubSpot. If you want to have a scalable clay enrichment engine, you need to build modular clay tables. And I'll explain what that means and the importance of it. It's really a concept that comes from coding, and it's a way to use clay professionally. So, what does that mean? I'm going to talk about what modular code is using my trusty Perplexity guide over here. Essentially, modular code is really important to build scalable software systems or even websites. So talking about in the context of a website, if I go to Sculpted's website over here, we have different like brand colors on the site. We have this like orange color, this blue color, and these buttons appear all over the site, right? So this button's all over the place, and this button's all over the place here. You can see that we have these different colors, and if in a website with you can use CSS, which is the basically the name of how you style the site, design it with colors and spacing and things like that, to add button colors and these effects where you hover over it. Now, if you code every single button uh, directly, you add the color to each button individually. If you, let's say, one day want to change the colors for your website and you have thousands of pages, you'll have to go through thousands of pages and change every single button color and every single bit of like every single button code, every single button in HTML in the website coding language. You'd have to go into each one individually and change the button color. The other option is to use what's called CSS, which is a style guide essentially. All you have to do is define your button colors like in one place in CSS, primary button color, secondary button color, and then everywhere else across the site, what you do is you call on that CSS code you wrote one time and you say button color is, and then you call the CSS that you wrote before. And that way, if you want to update the whole site, right, all the button colors across the site in one go, all you have to do is change that CSS code one time, and then all the other parts of the site that are calling on that code to define the button color will all update at one time. So the same thing applies in Clay. So, what I see a lot of, which I think is bad, is, you have like, if we go to, even my sculpted, like home over here, I have all these different clay tables. Imagine like for every single clay function I want to do, I built like, let's say, one clay table has like 20 different enrichments in it, right? And I have the table all over the place. If I want to change one enrichment, I have to go to every single clay table I ever built and change all of them all at once, which is not scalable, right? So instead, what you should do is build one clay table per enrichment function, and then use that over and over again across your clay database. So an example of this would be business category. A really common workflow that you can run in Clay is taking a company summary, like summarize what a company does using AI, and then pass that summary into another AI prompt, which takes the summary and determines the industry category, which I did here. Marlboro, I created this company summary, and then I take that summary and pass it into this classification prompt, which pulls out the response. And then I have this business category. Now I can pass this data into HubSpot or into our server. And if I ever want to change how the classification works, like if I ever want to add an industry or category to my list of categories, all I have to do is go here to this one place and update this definition once. And then everywhere else that I'm using this across Clay will also update automatically. I don't have to go through and every other Clay table that I have ever built update this a million times, which is super important for scaling Clay and making it an efficient database. So for a customer, we basically define every single property that they want before we start working. And then we'll use a Clay workbook. And we use one Clay table like this this is like, let's say the account model. So every single property on the account model gets its own table down here in the workbook. And this is the final property. And then we pass relevant information to subsequent workflows, right? We would import the list of companies into this first table, and then we push the important information, the company name, website, into all the follow-up prompts, all the follow-up Clay tables to do everything else. And then all of this data is pushed back to its final destination, which in our case is the Sculpted server, which sits between Clay and HubSpot to power more complicated enrichment workflows with HubSpot that is not native to Clay. If you're interested in learning how to do that, how we do that, you can book a call with me. We specialize in HubSpot enrichment for we specialize in Clay for HubSpot, right? Cleaning up your HubSpot database And the native integration with HubSpot via Clay is not so powerful. So we have our own custom system. So what we'll do is we'll use Clay as like the enrichment engine that finds the data, but then we push the data into our server, and then we use our server to connect to HubSpot, so we can be very custom about how we integrate with HubSpot and how we think about override rules and whatnot. But yeah, that's the main idea of Clay. You don't have to do this; it's not necessary, but it is definitely a best practice. I think it's something that most people do not speak about, and I think the most innovative companies and companies that want to have a healthy, scalable enrichment architecture for the future are going to want to be following this modular enrichment strategy and make sure that they're implementing this, because otherwise you're going to have a mess and it's going to be very difficult to maintain as you grow.